This is what I call a nice crawl space. In fact, it's so nice, I'm going to take my coffee down here with me. This seems to be the way things are going today. Everybody's conditioning their crawl spaces. This is a nice one here. So I'm going to hook this dehumidifier up today and get this place moisture free. Look at the lighting they did down here. That's a pretty top-notch job. I haven't got my GoPro yet, my head mount GoPro, so I'm still doing this one-handed. It's coming soon though. So down here we'll put a duplex receptacle. It's a tamper-proof as per code in the crawl space, but it has to be ground fault protected, which I will put a ground fault circuit breaker in the panel, as you'll see. But we always loop our wires, as I always tell everybody. You always want to wrap your wire in a clockwise direction so it tightens down onto the terminal, and then the one not being used, always clamp it down as well so it's not protruding out and coming in contact with the ground when you tuck it in. Okay, now the receptacle's installed, I'll staple this 12-2 Romex back to the panel along that wall, and that's in the garage on the other side of that wall there. Then I can remove this temporary power supply they had rigged up for this dehumidifier. So that wire goes through the band board there into the garage where the panel is. And people, always staple your wires up. Don't let them dangle into the crawl space. Recent code change has it so that you have to run your wires along the brick wall, the block wall of your crawl space, or you can run it along the center beam or a trunk line. But I kind of like it because it eliminates all the spaghetti and the mess that we deal with as electricians. Just staple it up. It's not that hard to do. Makes a nice, neat job. So we took it and turned the corner and comes over here and feeds the receptacle that feeds this condensate pump and dehumidifier. So anything that this produces, any water this produces, drains into the condensate pump, which is pumped outside through this hose. And if that fails, we have a tray down here. Pretty good setup. This place should stay dry and mold free. And wouldn't you know it, look who's here to grab my tools when I'm ready to come out.
Oh yeah.
Hey Gordon.
Hey.
I almost want to bring the vacuum down here, man. It's so nice.
Yeah, it is clean.
It is very clean.
Yep.
But we're not going to do that because we respected it.
Yeah, you didn't get anything down there. Look at that. You put the tarp down there and
yeah,
stay clean.
it's nice. It's a pretty nasty day today. Snow's melting away. A little bit of rain going on, but it's not too bad conditions to work in. So here's the garage that we're going to run the wire to in this panel. We ran this 12-2 up and over and then down, and that's where I went into the crawl space there. And Gordon will hold this camera and show them how I hook this breaker up, Gordon.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get this wire in the panel, or at least I am. Gordon's going to film it for me. This Romex will go ahead and estimate. I always go to the bottom of the panel to be safe. And then I'm going to take out this available spot here, which is a 1/2 inch space. Concentric knockout to be technical. And I just had that connector, Gordon. Here it is. These are push-in connectors. They're Romex. I like them because you don't have to deal with the screws anymore like the old way. Okay, just pop it in and then you simply take your wire and come through like so. And we always staple it up the wall.
Okay.
All right, always staple your wire as I always like to do. Make it nice and secure. Remember this hammer, Gordon?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. In the old days, they sell that in cereal boxes.
He makes fun of it because it's so small.
It's a toy.
It's lightweight and deadly, man.
Yeah. Well, my daughter's got one.
Now, when I'm stripping out, guys, see how I follow my hand? It looks deadly, and I barely scored a jacket because you don't want to nick the wire. And then, see, didn't even barely touch the paper. And then we're gonna cut it ever so carefully. Pull the paper out. Make sure that ground wire doesn't hit the bus bar, as it's done before. And hook the wires up. This is a ground fault breaker. You know how you have the reset buttons on the receptacles? Well, this one, you've seen them in your panels. This is a ground fault circuit breaker, required for crawl spaces. But we don't put a receptacle in the crawl space because if it trips, you'll never know that the dehumidifier is not working. So we put it up here in the panel, and these are a little more pricey than a receptacle, but you got to be able to see if the thing is tripped. So we'll install that. Get some light on the subject here. And this little pigtail here will land on the neutral bar. So I've located the neutral bar, and if you've noticed, I've turned all these breakers off that are in the vicinity of, because with this screwdriver here, it could short out and make a pretty bad situation. So I have found 2 spots that are open on here. Luckily, these old panels don't give you many spaces on the neutral bar. And we struggle with that as electricians because the new code will not allow you to double tap. In the new code, you got to try to keep each wire under its own terminal. So you show them, Gordy, right here. There's a couple double tap situations, how they've double tapped them over the years. Mm-hmm. They don't like that because the wires, when you press the screw down, don't compress properly and it's loose. So that's the reason behind that. Now we'll take this ground wire. This is the hot wire that goes to the breaker. We're going to take this ground wire, and it lands on this neutral bar as well. So we'll 90 it over, clip it to length. We'll bend him right in there under that terminal, which is under its own screw as well. And now, show them the panel, Gordon. You want to try to back it up and show them the whole panel. I want to show them, okay, you know, when you run these wires, bend them to the sides. So try to be as neat as you can. This guy wasn't bad, whoever did this panel. Mm-hmm. He did a good job. So now we're going to come down to this ground fault breaker that I installed, and the neutral's going to land to the breaker. The neutral will come into the actual receptacle I installed in the crawl space. Will be installed to this breaker, and it goes right above. I can switch to a square head now with these new breakers. It goes right above the neutral of the pigtail. And what that does, by wiring it this way, it has some electronics in here that'll sense moisture and trip this breaker. That's why the neutrals are incorporated in such a way. And then this hot wire will come down and terminate to the hot side of this breaker. And we'll terminate it under there, like that. And make sure all your wires are snug in your breakers and all your connections are tight. That's very important. Okay, if that's done, you can turn the breaker on. Don't forget to turn these on. They might not have heat in their house when they come home tonight if you don't do that. And we can close this up, label the panel cover, and this job is done. Put all the screws back in if they're available. Very rare do I see all 6 screws on a panel cover anymore. panel cover's in place, and the ground fault is up and running.